Dak Prescott headed back to the Hall of Fame. And I want to say something else. The Baltimore Ravens are fantastic. We know they're good. Lamar Jackson's great. Do I think they're better than the Patriots? Yes. Do I think they can win the Super Bowl? Yes. But the team has to stay humble. I don't know how many times I have to say it, because if the Ravens get cocky and they go into the playoffs, breezing through the teams, the Patriots will put them right on their ass and give them a slice of humble pie. It happens every year where we say the Patriots are getting worse. They're not as good as they were, and I understand that. Do I think the Patriots will win the Super Bowl? No. Could they? Yeah. Could they? Yeah. Because it is just the concept. There have been so many teams that have graced through the regular season and dominated in the playoffs. But you know what this is? Your NFL Week 11 review. No one does it better. We are back here on the YouTube channel. And today we're going to be talking about what we do every single week, and you guys know what it is by now. It's the Week 11 NFL review, and to be honest, yesterday was a very interesting week in football, and there was a lot of things to talk about, and we're going to go over all of that, but I just want to say first, like what I've said about the Ravens. They're good, they're great, I like them, but they have to stay humble, because Cam Newton, the LA Rams, who shouldn't have even been in the Super Bowl last year, they said, oh, no one's going to stop Gurley. Donald's going to hit Brady 15 times. Neither of them really had any presence in that game. The team was held to 10 points. 10 points. Carolina Panthers were 15-1 3 years ago, and one of the most dominant teams I've seen in a long time. The Broncos had a great defense. Cam Newton was Superman, breezed right through the playoffs, and he got to the Super Bowl, and Von Miller single-handedly made him his bitch. So that's my point. The Atlanta Falcons, 2 years ago, I want to say it was 28-3. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. 28-3 at halftime. They were probably celebrating in the halftime locker room. Matt Ryan and Julio were going to buddy up and have drinks after the game because they were going to celebrate their first NFL championship together. They lost that game. The Patriots came back and won the Super Bowl. What I'm trying to get people to see is, I love the Ravens, and I've said this before, they're great, but they have to stay humble. And I'm fearing that not so much Lamar, but his teammates are going to get very cocky and arrogant. And what I'm presuming to be a game against the New England Patriots at some point in the playoffs, they are going to shit the bed. But if they stay their course and they stay hungry, they could win the Super Bowl. But the Patriots are the team to beat, regardless of what anybody says. I know the Chiefs are there on the outside. They already bodied the Texans yesterday. Steelers will not be a threat if they make the wild card. The Raiders could be interesting, but they don't have a defense, really. And my Titans, if we were to make the playoffs, our defense would be good, but we would not be able to keep up with them on the scoreboard. So, let's get over all of these games here, and we're going to talk about anything and everything NFL. I can't rag on the Jets today because they won yesterday, and they won good. The Jets were in Washington to take on the 1-8 Redskins, and they completely obliterated them. It was a huge day for the Jets, but it means nothing. Ryan Griffin, tight end for the Jets, 5 receptions, 109 yards, and a touchdown. Sam Darnold had a beautiful day. He had 293 yards and 4 touchdowns. Good thing for Sam Darnold. Hopefully they can build on it. Jets smoked the Redskins 34-17. Means nothing for either teams. But it does mean that Sam Darnold is alive, and I knew that Sam Darnold was a decent quarterback. And again, Sam Darnold really isn't the issue with the Jets. It is a whole kerfluffle of other things. Good win for the Jets. Doesn't mean anything. I don't know who they play next week. It might be Cincinnati. No, you know what? They play the Raiders next week. So I believe that they will be put right back in their place against the Raiders next week. Saints and Buccaneers. Now, this is Drew Brees coming right back in full form after the disappointing loss to the Falcons last week. 228 yards and 3 touchdowns in this game. Kamara also rushed for 75, and Michael Thomas continues to show you why he is easily the best receiver in the NFL. 8 receptions, 114 yards, and Winston is absolutely terrible. You have two of the best receivers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, let's face it, folks, they have maybe one of the best, if not the best, receiving cores all around in the NFL, and Jameis Winston threw 4 interceptions. I want to say Jameis Winston probably is pushing almost 20 interceptions on the year. I don't know what the record is for the most interceptions thrown in a year, But wow, wow. 34-17, same score as the first game. Saints take out the Buccaneers, and Jameis Winston, you know what it is? I don't think he's the worst quarterback, but he is not. In a big game, I would not want Jameis Winston as my quarterback. I would not. That's just how I feel. Doesn't make me right, just how I feel. This game, there's nobody that has gone through heartbreak more this year, and I know there's New York teams too, than the Denver Broncos, because you expected the Broncos to be better than they were, and not only that, they've had so many heartbreaking losses this season. The Broncos were going to Minnesota to take on the Vikings, and they were up by 20 at halftime. The Broncos were up by 20 at halftime. The Vikings didn't look like much in this game, and the Vikings won this game 27-23. Kirk Cousins had a great day, 319 yards and 3 touchdowns. Courtland Sutton was good for the Broncos, 5 receptions, 113 yards for Denver. Dalvin Cook was library silent in this game. And you know what I hate is because I made my top 5 running backs of the league this year the other day. And what I hate about that is because every time I make a list like that and the game happens before I produce the list, the players that are on that list do terrible. Dalvin Cook had 26 yards in this game. That is atrocious. Stephon Diggs was great, 5 receptions, 121 yards. Broncos failed a red zone drive at the end of the game, which would have probably won them the game. Yes, it would have, because they would have got the touchdown. And the Broncos are just on the ends of bad luck this year. Flacco hurt. Their backup not so great. Brandon Weeden, I don't know his actual name. I have to look that up. Not that good. Not that good. So, Minnesota wins. We'll see where they go from here. Broncos, again, disappointing. Bills at Dolphins. A good day for Josh Allen, who has been a question mark this year. 256 yards and 3 touchdowns. John Brown was great. Another good receiver that doesn't get credit. 9 receptions, 137 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It was an even better day for Ryan Fitzpatrick, who had no stats, but he had 323 yards. And Devontae Parker caught 7 receptions for 135 yards. The Bills run over the Dolphins 37-20. Out of all the worst teams in the league, I honestly believe, and I know this is going to sound crazy, the Dolphins have the makings to be one of the better ones. I think the Jets are the worst team. I can't say that. I really can't. I think you have to say the Bengals are the worst team because they're just looking terrible right now. I think that it's difficult because the Jets have been terrible, but even though they're playing easier teams, there have been some bright spots, not too much. Sam Darnold is maybe going to get his mojo back a little bit. The Bengals are just terrible, and the Dolphins, they have some receivers to throw to. Fitzpatrick isn't terrible. I don't think he's good, but they have shown certain promises in certain games. The Miami Dolphins, but they're still an awful team. But there are certain things in this games where I feel like if you are a fan of the Dolphins, there's some type of reason to be optimistic. But that is that, and we're going to see as the Bills keep holding on to that AFC wildcard spot. Jaguars-Colts, AFC South Division matchup. A lot to talk about in this game. Brissett returns for his first game against the Colts, and his return was felt. He passed and rushed for a touchdown. John Williams was running for the ball for the Colts. He had 116 yards. Nick Foles' first game back, so the Jaguars elect to not have Gardner Minshew play, and we're going to see where that goes. I think Foles is going to lock this spot down. He's obviously the better quarterback, but I think we will start to see if Foles starts to struggle, we'll see Minshew put back in, but I think Foles is going to have this, and Gardner Minshew definitely put on his display over the first 10 weeks, and I think he's definitely, maybe he's a little bit overrated, but he's definitely good enough to be a quarterback on some team in this league that is desperately looking for one, and I might make a video addressing Colin Kaepernick in a different situation, because I know that is a controversial topic, but I am going to probably address that in a different video, and I feel like that one I'm going to try to upload at the best time of day because it's going to get a lot of views. Nick Foles is back, and he did decent. 296 yards and 2 touchdowns. DJ Chark, who's been great for Jacksonville all year, 8 receptions, 104 yards and 2 touchdowns. But when it was said and done, the Colts trampled over the Jaguars 33-13. Prescott coming back is big for the Colts because Brian Hoyer is a bag of chips, and we're going to continue to see where that goes and kind of where it goes from here. The talking point of the day for quarterbacks was Dak Prescott. The Cowboys were going to Detroit to take on the Lions, and Dak Prescott had a phenomenal day. 444 yards and 3 touchdowns, and Mike Gallup was a good receiver for Dallas. 9 receptions, 148 yards. No notable performers on the Lions. No notable performers on the Lions end of things. 35-27 Cowboys win. But where do they go from here? That's my thing. Yes, good game for the Cowboys. Are they a good team? Maybe. Where do they go? Where do they go? Do I think that they're going to win the NFC East? Yeah, at this point. Do I think that they're going to do anything in the playoffs? Probably not. Depending on who they play, they might win a game. But again, the NFC East or the NFC as a whole is just so competitive. I don't see them beating the Seahawks. I don't see them beating the Packers. Packers have their number. I don't see them beating the Saints. I don't see them beating the 49ers. And I think they could give the Vikings, if the Cowboys were home, they may have a chance to beat the Vikings. But really, I mean, there's nothing there. We're going to keep pushing on here. We got quite a few more games to review. The Falcons and Panthers. Now, here's what I'm worried about. I am worried about the Atlanta Falcons fans starting to think that this is something. The Falcons smoked the Panthers on Sunday. They were visiting in Carolina. Matt Ryan had a good game. He threw for 311 yards and a touchdown. Calvin Ridley was a great force. 8 receptions, 143 yards and a touchdown. Kyle Allen was under attack all day. He was demolished by the Falcons' defense. He was sacked 5 times and he threw 4 picks. McCaffrey ran for 70. However, he also caught for 121 yards on 11 receptions. Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in the league. If you don't believe me, just look at stats. He was good before this season. He's unbelievable. He really is. So, the Falcons' defense makes a good point. 29-3, they smoked the Panthers. And again, here's the problem with the Falcons. If they were to win out, which they will probably not do, if they were to win out, the NFC, it's the NFC. And I try to tally that back into so many things. It is the NFC, folks. It is the NFC. The AFC wild card, there's about 4 or 5 teams that legitimately are competing for it. But the NFC wild card is probably going to be Seattle and Minnesota, and that's a lock. I don't really know who's in the hunt. So even if the Falcons came back and won. Now, here's the thing. There's people that are saying the Jets could win out and make the playoffs. They won't do that because of the Jets. But if you said the Falcons could do that, depending on who they play, I'd say it's a possibility. But they won't. They might. It's unlikely, but they might. But even if they did, the Falcons would get annihilated in the first game of the playoffs. They won't make the playoffs over a team like the Cowboys. They will not make the playoffs over a team like... I don't even know who else. I gotta look, because that's another video I'm gonna make. I'm gonna make a video where I cite all of the teams that are good and what they need to do to win the Super Bowl. So yeah, that's that. But I don't really know where you go from there. The next game was the Lamar Jackson game. What a phenomenal day for Lamar Jackson, honestly. 222 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also rushed for 86 yards. Gus Edwards had 112 yards rushing and a touchdown. The Ravens completely obliterate the Houston Texans, 41-7. And Lamar Jackson keeps running over teams that... The Ravens, you know what makes them so good? Not only what they do, but their schedule. The Ravens beat the Seahawks. They lost to the Chiefs. They beat the Patriots. They beat the Texans. The Ravens have a tough schedule, and they're still doing this. So that is part of the situation as to why they're better than the Patriots. Because yes, they don't have the playoff experience maybe that the Patriots have and the pedigree that they have. But look at the teams that they are playing and the teams that they are beating and how they are beating them. I haven't seen the Houston Texans run over like that in a while. Deshaun Watson he looked like a shell of himself in this game. So for me, the Ravens are the T right now, and that's just how it is. It's just how it is. Again, phenomenal day for the Ravens. They keep pouncing through the league, 8-2 on the year. This was a game that had two major franchises involved and was an absolute atrocious game. And I watched most of it. The Patriots were going to Philly to take on the Eagles, both coming off of a bye week, if I'm correct. This was one of the worst games I've seen from the New England Patriots because I hold them to a much higher standard, and they did terrible. I don't know what Tom Brady's final stats were, but he looked like garbage this whole game. The Patriots looked like garbage this whole game. The Eagles looked like garbage this whole game. Top receiver, or top performer, 9 receptions, 94 yards, Zach Ertz. Patriots win when it's all said and done, 17-10. Awful game. Awful game to watch. If you watch this game, because it was nationally televised, I'm so sorry. Because I know there's a lot of Eagles fans, and there's a lot of Patriots fans. I'm so sorry. I really am, because this game was awful. Absolutely awful. And 1 o'clock, I was kind of doing some work at home, helping my family out a little bit, so I wasn't really watching the 1 o'clock games, especially because Giants weren't on, Jets were on, who cares, and Titans were off this week. Oh, that's another thing. New York Giants were off this week. People already know that. Fans already know that. Titans were off as well, so I'm not wearing my Titans jersey. The Cardinals and 49ers. If there's been any team that has played the 49ers well this year, it's been the Arizona Cardinals. But let's not acknowledge Jimmy Garoppolo, who went off in this game, 424 yards and 4 touchdowns. Deebo Samuel was a top receiver for them, 8 receptions, 134 yards. But it was all said and done, the 49ers got the win over the Cardinals, 36-26. This was a very good game. I don't have any Arizona Cardinal stats, which I regret not doing because I think Kyler Murray I don't know what kind of game he had, but this is the second time, and I think on Halloween they played a couple weeks ago, the Cardinals and 49ers, and they played a really good game. So the 49ers were to get this win, but like I said, they're winning, they're 9-1, but they're showing that they're vulnerable, and the only team that hasn't really shown that they're vulnerable is the Baltimore Ravens. So that is that. The next game was a game where I feared my life for my friend because they almost lost this game. This was a good game for Derek Carr, 292 yards and a touchdown. Josh Jacobs ran great, 112 yards. And it was the Bengals going to Oakland to take on the Raiders, and they were sent back home disappointed for the 10th time this season. 17-10, Raiders beat the Bengals, and if you are a Bengals fan, I apologize in advance. You know what's crazy? We knew that. Here's the thing. The Bengals are benching Andy Dalton. But, yes, this team is terrible, but the idea is that you are supposed to use the players and the tools that give you a best chance to win. And Andy Dalton, regardless of what anybody says, gives the Bengals the best chance to win. So that's that. The Raiders, or the Bengals, are 0-10. They have officially been eliminated from the playoffs. They were eliminated a long time before this game. But that is that. Raiders continue to look dominant. John Gruden, fantastic coach, never gets the credit. Final game of the week. And boy, was this boring. Bears going to LA to take on the Rams. We've seen a Todd Gurley appearance in this game. Finally. Todd Gurley ran for 97 yards and a touchdown. Trubisky is benched. And the ground game wins. 17-7, the Rams beat the Bears. Again, the Rams are showing they're still relevant, but their offense is not nearly as dominant as it should be. This has been your NFL Week 11 review, and if I tell you anything, I don't know everything, but I know a lot. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Final game of the week is tonight. Chiefs at Chargers. That should be a good one based on how the Chargers have been playing football, and just because the Chiefs are there, and by default, the Chiefs are a fun team to watch. Chiefs-Chargers, Monday Night Football. Everybody, thank you for watching.